Welcome to another Soccer Down Here 1v1, and we have pulled someone from league meetings. That's how important it is to catch up with this particular individual. Grand Exalted Poobah, owner, team president of Everything South Georgia Tormenta FC, Darin van Tassel. DVT, thanks for hanging out for a 1v1.
John, these are fun for me. You've been here from the beginning and watching us grow, so thanks for keeping up with us.
Always, and we'll catch up with a particular anniversary coming up toward the end of this discussion. But now that we've pulled you out of league meetings, first and foremost, if there's anything that you'd like to break news-wise, feel free during this particular 1v1.
We'll do that.
How are league meetings going? What can be divulged, discussed? What are the headlines and highlights so far?
Yeah, well, this is our first and probably only all digital meeting at the USL. So the Winter Summit went from December, and now we're into January doing that. I can tell you the sessions are packed. They're Zoom meetings, but they're still well attended. It feels like it's working. I'm happy to say that the format is working. There is definitely a sense of energy. I'm happy to report. Folks feel like we're coming out of the pandemic, although we clearly aren't out of it. We're trying to figure out exactly when those moments happen, but I can tell you there's enough excitement that what the future holds for the future of the USL in North America, whether it's the Championship, League One, League Two, the USL Academy that's coming, and then there's some other news that the league's going to announce here in a little bit, which I can't break. But it's growing. It's growing the base, and having that structure from top to bottom makes so much sense. And quite frankly, that's what Tormenta's tried to do, whether we came up with our academy, then formed a League Two team, and now the first team at the pro level, and just trying to make sure that we had that pathway to pro, boys and girls, women and men. And we got to get better on the women's side. But just also create an environment where more people want to play soccer. Not everybody's going to, be at the elite level. And I think that's an important mission for what we're doing.
And last week it was announced USL League One has kind of a soft launch or a range of dates when the season will start. Obviously, a great sense of optimism, but at least the flexibility is there where if a team feels confident where they can start earlier in that range in late March, they can. If they want to start in April and further down the line, they can. So the flexibility is there for when it comes to starting a season.
Yeah, we voted on March 8th to begin. By the way, it was unanimous. I can't stress how important and how much work that really takes, because we're all in different places and some of us are in states and cities that there's no way they could even practice today. But we had the flexibility to flex it, into as early as April 10th. I don't know if somebody's going to flex that forward, but we got to get started by then. And we also made a decision to go into November with the playoffs. So that's a true season. That's the 28 games that we were looking for. We're still figuring out some pieces on the Open Cup, by the way, what happens there. And I'm really pleased. I think by at least halfway through the season, we can probably get back to people in the stands and normal. I'm kind of a glasses 3/4 full guy. Hope it's even faster than that. But until that it is, we've got to keep playing. I think it shows you how strong the USL is, since we are, second and third divisions, that we stayed alive during the pandemic, and that's a whole lot of courage from the owners and administrators in our league.
You mentioned courage. Let me go to their parent club, North Carolina FC, and Steve Malik dropping down from USL Championship to League One. So now you've got another region rival.
Well, I hope it's what's great for NCFC. I know it's outstanding for League One. Getting a chance to go play in Raleigh and have another Southern football team to play against is so exciting. And of course, they'll bring immediate street cred as an organization. So lots to learn and to borrow from. I think it's a wonderful fit for the league.
When it comes to the league itself, there have been some groups that are sitting there saying not this year, but next year. And it's been getting into that discussion that we've been talking about the last handful of years where FC Tucson needs a dance partner. And so there's talking about stuff out west, and you're adding folks in the Northeast and things like that. So all of these pieces that we've been talking about to make USL League One regionally viable so it's not as taxing on the finances and grow it in all of these sections. It's coming to the fore, albeit obviously with the pandemic, it's a little slower than you guys would have wanted, but
That's right.
pieces are being presented.
Yeah, and we've had the big announcements from Northern Colorado and Fresno for 2022. I suspect there's some others coming too, and we'll let them benefit from their own releases. But there's a lot knocking at the door. Whether they're going to join immediately at League One, which quite a few are. I think there's, if you really want to watch the story, it's look at the numbers that are in League Two, and what you don't know is, quite frankly, how many of those are looking to make the jump up into League One, a little bit like Tormenta did. Now, whether they keep a team in League Two or not, I couldn't speak to that. Our future is really, really bright. It's a trendy phrase, but it feels right. And, if nothing else, the pandemic has brought the owners in our league incredibly closer together.
And you mentioned the women's game, and let me get into that a little bit. Obviously, there's some impact in the community there as well. There was a discussion that the USL was interested in putting together its own women's league, which would be, we were talking about it on the show on Tuesday morning, where, probably something in the lines of like a USL League One, League Two area, if you were looking at the pyramid. What did you think about that announcement? Obviously, knowing what the sport means on the girls and women's side there in that part of your footprint, obviously another addition to the puzzle.
Well, I think it's not just something we need to do as a league. I think it's something we need to do as a franchise. It's a missing piece to us when you go look at where our academy has gone thus far. I mean, quite frankly, if you just look at where the girls, the women that have come through our academy, where they're playing now, Abby Brighton starts for Vanderbilt. They had a magical run and won the SEC. Isabella Gutierrez is at Furman. I think we have 5 or 6 former Tormenta FC women who are playing at Furman. We've hit a lot of really high-end elite colleges, but we don't have something for them to play. So we've been doing a deep dive as a front office, trying to figure out what our piece can be, into that, and hopefully the league will have a structure that can support it.
You mentioned, age groups and academies and things like that. Another thing that came across the bow was adding Effingham County to the mix. And it's something that we've been talking about since Tormenta came online, that you're not just Statesboro, you're not just Bullock County, it's Bullock and Jenkins and Effingham and all of the county and Chatham and all of the counties in the footprint there in that section of Southeast Georgia. You're now getting to add Effingham and Academy into the mix as well.
Yeah, and we even stretched from our academy side into the Low Country of South Carolina. Here, listen, more people playing soccer is better. And I think on the youth landscape, what was really important is for us to show people we're here to help grow your clubs. We do not want to take your clubs over. That's a real important statement. One of the things that's unique about pro soccer, John, you know this better than anybody, is that unlike all the other pro sports in the United States, this game flourished first on the youth side before it did on the pro side. And that's a very odd sort of thing. Basketball and baseball and the NFL certainly never went that route. It's sort of the pro side and filtered down. So what we've told a lot of our neighboring partners in the area and other clubs is we'd love to work with you. If it makes sense, here's an affiliate program. You don't ever have to change your identity. Come try it out. Let us do some things. They're non-committal. We can show you what's there. And if it makes sense, come and join us. And the group in Effingham has gone that route. And I think we're only going to grow and integrate and, even better. We still wanted them to be able to, to maintain their identity, where they're from. They're proud of those pieces. And there's some other teams coming in South Carolina and some other parts of Georgia that we're going to be welcoming underneath the Tormenta flagship. What that does then, when they become affiliates, it permits them to play on the USL Academy for their elite players to find a home. And if we can help them out with our players and coaching and making those communities even better, and Tormenta become an important part there, quite frankly, that's the fun part of growing a franchise.
Also, part of growing a franchise is something that we've been talking about over the last handful of years. We were there when it happened, the groundbreaking for the stadium. And obviously, with elections that happened in November, there were some things on the ballot. And now you're looking into 2021. Obviously, pandemic affected what you could do after you broke ground. Now it looks like 2021 is when construction is going to be hitting full bore and fast paced.
Yeah, it's an absolute stadium acre development of about 300 acres. The footprint of the stadium is about 14 of those acres. And so, but for that stadium to thrive, it needs to be part of something bigger. So we, unlike a lot of stadium projects, we took a big bite right all at once. And we've spent there's probably already, John, about $10 million have been in the ground of infrastructure, that non-romantic, non-sexy part of any development. There's water and sewage and roads and asphalt and bike lanes and sidewalks and traffic lights. But if you're going to do it right and you want it to be around for a long time, this part is so important. I mean, you got to make sure all the water is going to drain to the right places. I don't think that usually gets enough time. We have taken our time there. What COVID did was we also had to make sure that we couldn't have a stadium completed and then not be able to put people in it because of, the times. So in 2021, that construction will begin, and not just for the stadium, but some of the side pieces. The public shopping, grocery store, and a lot of the other restaurants were announced in the Statesboro Herald on Tuesday that they'll start going vertical in May. Our stadium's probably on a similar time frame. We're all in the leasing, the permitting stages right now with the state. And when it's ready to go, it'll be ready to go quite fast. FIFA right now is going to require us to be in that stadium in 2022 playing on it. And we look forward to being able to meet that demand. From day one, we knew this thing was going to take a minute to do. And the pandemic added at least a year on top of that for us. But again, all good ideas. Well, here's what this pandemic has done. It has definitely filtered out. If it's a good idea, it survived it. If it wasn't a good idea or was on shaky ground, then it's probably going to crumble. And thank goodness we're not crumbling, but hitting the gas pedal to move forward.
So FIFA said 2022, huh?
Well, that was as soon as you join the pro ranks, you have to meet some requirements on capacity and how many fans you can put in there. And we are on an exemption for how many fans we can put in at Irk Russell Park. FIFA's been a wonderful partner to work with, and U.S. Soccer in terms of how they signed off on those pieces. They want to help us grow too, but we've got to get that in place. And in order to grow the club and continue to flourish, we've got to get it to the right size where not just those Tormenta games can be packed and Georgia Southern men's and women's Division I soccer can be packed, but it's the right size for us to host Premier League teams here in July in a friendly, for us to host conference championships, for us to host state cups and massive amateur type of situations, so that we can be a spring training home for Major League Soccer teams in addition to ourselves, so we can play friendlies with those folks in that time. In order to do those things, that's how you make this thing explode, but you have to have those amenities and logistics right, and we're completely committed to doing so.
How do you keep from being overwhelmed with operating a franchise and simultaneously trying to create an anchor piece, not just for the franchise itself, but for the city that you're in and the footprint that you're the hub of? How do you manage to keep your sanity in something like this, having to juggle all these chainsaws?
Yeah, well, I don't think my busy is any more important than anybody else's busy, John, and your busy is also important. We're all busy. So I don't know that I'm any more overwhelmed than anybody else, but I'm certainly not doing this by myself.
Right.
I like being part of a team. We have a team of people that are in our development group and part of our ownership group. They've all let me be the face of the franchise. Thank goodness it's not just me, or we would not be here. We'd be the best rec soccer team around, but we wouldn't be moving, much past all of that. There are overwhelming moments, but if you have the right idea, and we think we do, because the folks at the city and the state and the county and the league and the international partners that I would mention to you, they want to be a part of it. So you keep moving and you keep going because you're just absolutely determined not to do it any other way.
So when you have an international partner dial you up, and I I don't care who it is, but just in that sense of international partner in quotation marks. And yes, I just used air quotes.
Well, it's more than one. They want to come and play.
That's great. When they dial you up, when they give you that phone call, when they shoot you that email, do you ever back away from the desk, or when you hit the end button on the phone and sit there and go, whoa, it's like, all right, we really are building something here.
You're darn right. Those are fun moments. And it's absolutely happened. That's how you know you're doing something bigger than just this. But it's also why we knew it was going to never be enough just to build a field to play on, just to field a team. Those things aren't sustainable. And it's not lost on any of us. We're in the smallest pro soccer market in North America. Nobody comes close. In fact, I think Greenville's the next closest one. Greenville's a massive city. So the gap is massive between us and them. So if we're not attractive to be able to, to play and present ourselves to those folks, and, we're going to have Premier League teams playing friendlies in that stadium in Statesboro.
But it's
the ultimate legitimizer for us.
Yeah, but when you mention Greenville's a larger city, I think that your footprint, though, makes up in that with the numbers, because once again, it's not just Bullitt County. It's everything up and down I-16, going from Macon to Savannah, where you're the center of the wheel, and then you go north to Augusta, you go south into the swamp, and so I mean you're the spoke in the wheel for a lot, and I think that makes up for a lot of the folks that might be a population center for all of this.
Yeah, you get it, and that's a lot of fun. Listen, here's the other way. So there's a story on Tuesday in the Statesboro Herald about an update on the stadium and the public's development on the larger sorts of things. It shows up Tuesday morning. By mid-morning Tuesday and by afternoon on Tuesday, interviews with the CBS and the ABC TV affiliates out of Savannah, whose broadcast goes way into South Carolina, all the way to Baxley, almost to Brunswick, certainly into Statesboro. That's a big footprint. We sort of think about that hub. They were here immediately. Those are constant reminders that this just is not a conversation that John and Darin are having, but others are paying attention to us.
Coaching changes. Tom Morris is the head coach of Tormenta FC2, and then you've got Ian, who is taking over in the first year for Tormenta, although both of them have been a part of the family in different places. Now they have different jobs that they can put on the CV. What's it like introducing them to their new job titles?
Almost everybody that's ever been a part of Tormenta has come up from the ranks in some capacity, players and front office and owners for that matter, too. I don't want to lose sight. Tom's also, the first assistant on the first team. That's easily his most important job. And his work on League Two and the second team is making sure that first team is going to constantly be supplied players. I told Tom we are not backing down. Our goal in the second team is to win championships. And in doing that, that's how we're going to develop players. And we're going to pull not just from the single best collegiate and amateur players in the country, but we're also going to give it a shot for our academy guys to get their feet wet too. It's never going to be about choices. There's a little Dove chocolate bar saying, almost a fortune cookie like thing that's pinned to my desk, and it says do both, choose both. And I hope that's the case. I like being surrounded by people that want to outwork me, John, and Ian Cameron and Tom Morris and all the coaches that are there and in the academy side and even our front office are doing a great job of outworking me. That takes a lot of work because I got up at 4:30 today. Now, we do have a new puppy, and that had something to do with it. But it takes a lot of work to outwork me, but they're all doing it.
It's all about.
That's right.
See, you got a new puppy, and the boss and I have a 14-year-old. So at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, when it's time to go, I'm at the other end of that scale, brother. It is not a straight line from one to the other. It's a circle, and you meet at the top and the bottom. I know exactly
every time.
About
every time.
So when it comes to us having these conversations, you just had a third birthday as a part of the USL. Did Nitra get you like a new leather wallet with a Tormenta logo stamped on it? Because I know that 3 is leather for anniversaries.
Yeah.
What was the anniversary like? Were there any leather gifts exchanged to mark the occasion? What was it like?
Well, since she's the real owner, I was buying leather items for her. The new puppy, Tessie, she has a wonderful leather collar. All of that sort of coincided at the exact same time. So the leather part wasn't lost on us by any means. Let me just pause for a second. 3 years ago, the USL asked us to be the first team out of the gate, to say that we would be the first pro team in a brand new league. To this day, I'm still honored by that. And we're going to win a USL League One title here very, very soon, because that's so much fun to prepare for. And we've got a whole bunch of new players coming in, and every year I think we're getting better. But it's a real honor. And today I'm surrounded by a group of other owners in that league. We've become very close. There's a trusting relationship amongst us all. I do not like losing to any of them, just like you don't like losing to siblings and families and really good friends. But our league is healthy and sound, and that matters so much, because we've seen a lot of leagues come and go. The USLs will not be one of them, and League One and the championship and League Two and the academy are really positioned for a huge growth. But 3 years ago, when I saw it pop up and it was 3 years, I don't know if it felt like 30 or 3 weeks. Probably. Because every 5 minutes it changes.
Yeah. Do you think that we would have been having this conversation today 3 years ago if I had, if we look back 3 years ago, and we're normally having conversations, you hop in on the show and we would do those kinds of things. Do you think we'd be having a conversation like this 3 years ago?
It's always fun to speculate and counterfactual. What would it be like if otherwise? I've got to permit myself the luxury of looking ahead 3 years going on. So 3 years ago is probably hard to know that. I can tell you that when I first started following John Nelson and Soccer Down Here, the first time I ever remember you talking about it was our first year of playing, and we were in the PDL then, so now League Two. And you went on to a great detail about one of our academy players, James Brighton, who was playing, who just won an ACC title with Clemson.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, Nitra and I were in the kitchen. We had you turned up loud. I said, I cannot believe Soccer Down Here. You're talking about Tormenta. We have arrived. So when you tell me that I think we would have, this kind of conversation 3 years ago, probably. Although that was probably 5 years ago. Did I think 3 years ago we'd be having the kind of conversation now? I hoped so. I really did hope so, that we'd be doing it.
So then what kind of conversations are we having in 3 years since you opened?
Yeah, that's a great segue. Well, I hope we talk about, a couple of things. One, how nice the stadium looks, how impressed you were when you came down for a visit and stayed in the luxury boxes, and the concert we went to the day after the game, 800 people listening to acoustical music was really, really fun. And you couldn't believe how cold the beer was in the craft brewery that was there. And you really enjoyed the steak that was served too. And quite frankly, you were impressed with the weight room and the dining facilities that were players only down in the bowels of the stadium. That those were things you were impressed. But what you were really looking forward to and couldn't believe was how 2 months earlier, when you saw, Man City and Tormenta scrimmage in a friendly, and that the tickets sold out within the first 6 hours. Those will be fun conversations 3 years from now.
We'll hold you to them. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on things as we go. Really quick update when it comes to the calendar. The Girls Training Center program rescheduled to February 7th. So if anybody's interested in that, obviously they go to tormentafc.com. Follow the links and get engaged in that as well. Once again, on the timeline, remember, soft launch in and around May the 8th, 28-game regular season runs through October. So May 8th-ish would be when the League One season starts. North Carolina FC coming down from the championship. All your normal partners hanging out with you this year as well. Obviously, Darin, you got some folks coming back. You've got new folks coming in. You've gone into the Colombian second division to bring folks in. So once again, Statesboro turning into that spoke in the wheel down there in southeast Georgia and the swamps and all of that. But once again, great to catch up with you, especially during the league meetings as you ducked out and you decided to hang out with us during your lunch hour. Thanks for hanging out for a 1v1.
Well, I can show you right here. The meeting is going on without me, so I'm about to jump back in. Always a pleasure, John. Thank you.